He's come back
I
with
didn't know-
super gonorrhea.
I didn't know there were those.
I
didn't see
don't. Yes.
Well,
Yes.
but if you know, it's probably because you went there yourself.
How rude! I would never do such a thing. I'm
Oh
too
no!
cheap to pay for it.
Oh no!
And then we have Alessio.
Yeah.
And
Hi.
I have blurred my screen so you don't, but both of them have seen. I also have a new pet. I have.
Yeah.
You probably can't.
Oh, the
you
pet.
can. Yeah, there you go. That's Leela.
Hi, Leila. I think
Hello.
she's gonna be the new guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
She's got more knowledge than half of the bloody industry.
Yeah, probably.
Well, so let's get started with. Well, we'll get started with the game side of things first. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It's sold well, biggest console exclusive launch of all time. But every video I've seen of it makes it look shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a mystery. Did any one of you play it yet?
I
Or-
have not played it.
I have not, but I have seen it run on Switch, and well, it runs like crap.
Ow! I've just got cat claws in my leg. Yeah, it looks crap. No. I don't know what but Pokemon hasn't interested me in quite a while. I'd rather play Pokemon Yellow. But there's no denying it's done well. What? Sold more than 10 million combined, boxed and digital, and it's it's the fastest selling Nintendo game or something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean it's huge. I mean, to be fair, the Nintendo Switch install base at this point is really massive.
Well,
So
yeah, I would say it has only sold to like 1% of Nintendo Switch owners. There are like 500 billion out there.
yeah, I mean, I'd like to see
Even people on
I mean-
Mars own a Switch.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd like to see a new big Mario game. How much it can sell with this install base, and I guess we'll also see Zelda next year.
Yeah.
Because of course
Yeah.
it sold a lot, but it was a launch title. Now
so-
that the Switch has, untold billions of consoles sold, it can do gangbusters, I think. So no, but I mean the interesting thing is that, like you said, it's not particularly praised, at least by critics and some of the fans, but it's still sold incredibly well. So
It's Pokemon. It's always going to
Pokemon,
sell
yeah.
well. I've
Of
said it
course.
before. They could release Pokemon Sex Pest and Pokemon, Stalker, and both of those games would sell well.
So I
Yeah.
guess the Pokédex kind of debacle, what was it, a couple of years back, didn't really
It was
do anything to damage the franchise.
Nah.
It would never
No.
do, not in the general public's eye.
No, but I think Pokemon Legends Arceus did a lot of good because that was a good game. So I think if they really lost any goodwill, they just got it back to that game.
The problem is, I
If
actually
they
bought
lost-
Pokemon Legends Arceus, and I still never played it.
Well, I just played it. I just played just to try it out, the open world, kind of open world thing, and it really freshens up the experience a lot. I don't know if Scarlet and Violet is in any way like that. I don't know.
All I know is from the video clips I've seen, it looks like a fantastic PS2 game.
Yeah. Yeah. A game from the past, from 20 years ago.
Yeah, I guess it's weird because there are some decent looking Switch games now, so
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that, but I guess you can always Yeah, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I mean, the Switch can run The Witcher 3. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can run it surprisingly well. So it's really on Game Freak what they have managed
Yeah,
to
I'm
do.
gonna say it can run The Witcher 3 in the way it does. It can, and as much as it is Breath of the Wild, it's got it's not as challenging, but with the art style, but it's still an open world, and it's still got,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
excuse. There's really,
Yeah.
well, the only reason is simply that it's Pokemon. They know they can. They don't even have to half-ass it. They can quarter-ass it and still sell, more copies than God.
And everything else.
Yeah. I guess we can see that. I mean, for example, another game that recently launched, God of War Ragnarok, also did some record-breaking numbers. It was the fastest-selling PlayStation exclusive, I think, ever.
No, I thought
Well,
you were going to say PS5 exclusive. Then I was going to say, "Hell, that's not difficult." But PlayStation exclusive, go on. I say, fair enough. But again, I suppose with God of War, it's a long running franchise, but at least it's something somewhat fresh comparatively.
but I mean, the big difference is that actually God of War Ragnarok was universally praised.
Yeah.
But it still sold basically half of Pokemon. So
Yeah,
I guess that speaks to the the difference in the user base. I guess the user base. Yeah.
To be fair, there's always going to be something I railed against before. It's like, the Pokemon games have got two different versions, and some idiots will buy both. I got both versions. Why did you buy both versions? So I can catch them all. But shouldn't that be the whole idea of the fucking single game? No, Nintendo wants the money. They're going to rip us all off. I'm waiting for them to release free versions.
I never really understood why there are two editions. I guess, like you said, it's mostly to get more sales out of.
I remember doing
this is a remnant.
I remember
this
doing
is a remnant
post.
from. Yeah. This is a remnant from when they were releasing the games on Game Boy. That they said they wanted people to use the link cable. Actually, they wanted people to buy the link cable because no one.
Yeah, they wanted people to buy both copies as well. We all know the real reason. Nintendo can lie all it wants, saying it's to get people to, to share and to trade and to associate. It's like, yes, because I often go to little schoolboys and schoolgirls going, "Hello, child. Would you like to trade my Pokemon? Come on, let's go to this dark alley and trade small animals."
Don't give people ideas. Because someone will. Probably someone already tried to.
Of course they did. Sure. It's a bloody predator's dream. Nintendo's essentially allowing sexual deviants access to. Yeah, I'm calling you out, Nintendo.
Well, now you don't need to be close to one another to trade Pokemon, thanks to the power of the internet. Back in the day you had to be close.
Yeah, back in the day you had to actually be close to the children to do things.
Now you can be a sexual predator online.
Yeah. See, Nintendo, you've ruined everybody's childhood. This is how Jimmy Savile acted.
Yeah, we're cynical bastards. We just think the worst of everyone.
I don't think the worst of everybody. Don't tell lies. I know the worst of everybody. Everybody's scum. But anyway, so Pokemon's done well, bafflingly. It still gets away with releasing two. It gets away with releasing two copies of the same fucking game and just renaming it. It's like, here we go. Here's the red box edition. Here's the blue box edition.
They make a nice new art, so there is that. the new
Yeah.
cover.
They make a
Yeah,
nice
well-
new art, and then they decide they go, right, which 15 Pokemon can we steal out of this one, and which 15 different ones can we nick out of this one? It's like, that's bullshit. It always will be bullshit. It's been bullshit from day one. It still is bullshit, but it makes them money, and they're never going to stop wherever they get away with it.
Yeah.
But
As long as they sell this much, they will never stop doing this.
So, but speaking of money, 69 billion worth of money might not be happening soon. What a
Yeah.
great segue that was. I'm masterful. Go on, Alessio, take it away.
Yeah, well, there have been some additional news items and strong rumors that things might not be looking fine for the Activision Blizzard deal that Microsoft has been pursuing since the beginning of the year. Actually, to begin with, this early this week, a new report actually mentioned that Microsoft offered Sony a 10-year deal to keep Call of Duty on consoles. So it's a much longer deal than the previous 3-year offer. So that seemed like it was, perhaps a good concession potentially to both regulators and Sony. But later this week there were other reports, specifically from Politico. They shared a new insider report that suggests the FTC might be working towards an antitrust suit. They might be trying to block the deal, although it's not quite certain yet, but it seems like they are leaning that way at least. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean the deal will be stopped. Microsoft can always appeal, and actually, a couple of days ago, the Activision executive vice president for corporate affairs actually tweeted that they are going to fight to defend the deal, both Activision and Microsoft. So it seems like there will be a court battle coming up for this deal. Meanwhile, the CMA actually posted the official responses by both Sony and Microsoft to their decision to investigate further the specifics of the deal. And it was interesting because Sony tried to make it look like basically there was no PlayStation without Call of Duty. And also they
would
even
make
tried
that argument. You would.
They even tried to basically, they said PlayStation Plus is lagging behind Game Pass. And I don't know how they can make that argument while PS Plus has many more million of subscribers than Game Pass.
Has it? The actual pay, I don't know.
I mean, perhaps not the extra tires, but the basic tire, definitely has more than 25 million subscribers because people needed to play online. So and well, of course, on the other hand, Microsoft made it look like Call of Duty was nothing. So it both parties are really pushing now their narrative, and it looks like it's going to be a full-on fight at this point because neither is going to make a lot of concessions. I mean, with the exception of what I've said before, which is Call of Duty might stay on PlayStation platforms for 10 years. That's Microsoft's offer. So that's
I think in the end that's what it's going to be to make the deal go through is leave Call of Duty multi-platform. I think that's how it's going to end.
I don't think.
At least for a certain amount of time, because I think that is the only issue that is stopping.
I think they've already gone to 10 years, and it's all gone down to Call of Duty, and understandably, because it is the biggest. Well, there's no doubt about it. Outside of GTA, Call of Duty is the biggest franchise within video games. There's sadly no denying that. And I can understand Sony constantly making that argument. It's like, yeah. I just, I get the feeling now that Microsoft may have overstretched their hands a bit. I think probably going for Activision Blizzard, within a year after buying Bethesda for what was an insane amount of money. Well, ZeniMax, not Bethesda, but yeah.
7 or a billion or something, 7 or 8 billion.
Well, yeah, I think it was about 8 or 9 billion, but it was still an insane amount of money when you look at it. And it's that bringing of so many massive franchises under one roof where, well, they will have a monopoly. And Microsoft have been quite well known for little monopolies in the past, such as their browser monopoly back in in the late 90s and early 2000s. The lawsuit all around that.
Yeah.
That's quite a long time ago, though.
Oh, it is, but they're not unknown for that. In fact, they're under a lawsuit over Teams now at the moment, aren't they? So
yeah, actually,
they're not unknown for this sort of work.
Yeah.
I mean, they've gone quite under the radar over the last number of years, but you don't have to look far back you don't have to go too far back in the past to see what Microsoft will do. And Sony would do the same if they could. And I said, this is not just me slagging Microsoft off. All companies are evil. They're only in it for the money. There may be one or two altruistic good companies in the world, but I can't think of many in the games industry. In fact, I can't think of any.
Yeah.
No.
That's true. Well, it's. I think, at this point, like Francesco said, either they make that concession and people accept it. By people, I mean the regulators and Sony. I mean, Sony doesn't have to accept it. It's not really something they can decide, but of course they are going to put their pressure on the regulators as they have done. But I guess, even Microsoft could decide to call it quits at some point, even though they have to pay, I think, between 2 and 3 billion to Activision if the good deal doesn't go through. But Microsoft can definitely live with a couple of billion lost. So we'll see. I mean, of course, if the deal falls through, then they will certainly make other acquisitions, smaller ones perhaps.
Yeah, but, it's just too big of a. The reality is that Activision Blizzard is the biggest. It is the biggest third party, not including your Tencent. And it's too easy to ignore them because a lot of theirs is mobile and such as that. But in the actual mainstream core video games, there's no third party bigger than Activision Blizzard, not by a long shot. So going for what is the biggest fish in the pond, it was always going to draw attention. I'm genuinely, same as I've said before, I'm genuinely surprised that it's drawn this much attention. I thought it would in the game sphere, but it looks like governments have actually realised video games are actually big business.
I think it's really the climate that perhaps Microsoft didn't fully consider, because
I think Microsoft thought like me that governments just would not give a shit.
Mm.
And I
yeah,
genuinely
and
think governments wouldn't give a shit.
I mean, specifically for the US, we know that Biden basically appointed the FTC chair to to go against big tech if necessary,
Yeah.
because that's what she was always all about, and that's what they are trying to do now. Actually, there is a new Bloomberg article today that surmises, the deal hangs on a concession like the ones we have talked about, mainly Call of Duty staying multi-platform. But they also say in this Bloomberg report that it's exactly the kind of deal and concession that the FTC under Biden's administration doesn't want to do. So they might not be willing to, even if Microsoft wants to make that concession, it might not be enough. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, it's just there's, even if it goes through, there's going to be so many restrictions, and it's not just down to America. America's, they're both based in America, but when you look at the EU, EU's going to be quite stringent on them. UK, well, I suppose it depends how much money they give to the Tories. So we'll see. If they give enough money to Tories, I'm sure that they'll just wave it through. But yeah, I might be being a little cynical there, but I think in reality there's going to be a lot of, even if it goes through, there are going to be some big restrictions. Like I say, it might be Call of Duty for 10 years. They've got to allow Call of Duty on PlayStation for 10 years. It may be a case of they can't, they can't
And put it on
restrict.
Game Pass, maybe. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it may be something silly like that. I don't know about. I think they'll allow it to go on Game Pass if anything, but I think it may be that they don't allow them to restrict certain modes or something, core content. They may allow skins on Game Pass, but they may be like a zombie mode. You've got to allow it on both consoles or both platforms, sort of thing. They won't allow that at the same time for 10 years.
Unlike what Sony did.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
Same as I've said before, the difference is that Sony are buying things piecemeal, which is, I think, is a stupid thing anyway. I think it is stupid. Whereas one purchase, as big as it is, means that Microsoft have bought it forever, and they will have, whether they like to argue or not that they'll still be smaller than Sony, they'll have a monopoly on the market, because it's the cumulative effect of a good chunk of Sony's revenue comes from third-party sales, and a good chunk of that will be, a decent chunk of that will be from Activision Blizzard titles. Microsoft takes all them away, they gain all of that, and they gain Sony's chunk, whereas Sony loses that chunk. So they may want to say, well, yeah, but you add us both together, and when they're still not as big as Sony, yeah, but you're not accounting for what you're taking away from Sony. So they'll try all the little twisting that they want, and a lot of people will be fooled, but I'm never fooled. Mainly because they're all wankers. I don't trust a word any of them say. If they told me it was sunny outside, I'd be taking a bloody umbrella.
Never trust them.
Yeah. So yeah. We'll see. This is going to go on for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's not finished yet. That's for sure. It's going to be a battle, like we've said, and we'll see how it pans out.
I wouldn't be surprised if other companies eventually start chipping in as well. When they see how how it starts, how the winds are turning. It'll be interesting.
I mean, the first regulator to assess the deal was in Brazil, and actually they requested statements from most companies, even I think Ubisoft and whatnot, and really the only one who spoke against it was Sony. So I don't know if they're, like you said, they're going to change their stance, but for example, even Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick actually basically said this in favor of it. So I think,
Well,
yeah.
those the third party publishers are going to be in favour because that's their biggest third party competitor wiped off the face of the earth. They no longer have to compete with Call of Duty, or in the future they won't have to compete with Call of Duty and other titles from Activision Blizzard on the PlayStation platform. So it actually increases the amount that they can get. I mean, if I were a third party publisher, I'd be going, go on, Microsoft, get the bastards.
Do it.
If I was a company like, let's say I was Apple, I would be, and as much as I despise Apple from the core of my being, I would be saying, well, I don't like this because, all the Mac ports of Activision Blizzard games, they probably won't happen in the future. There's
Apple is really the last person to talk about monopolies.
Oh no, I know. I say I despise Apple, but I've always riled against them monopolies and everything. But if I were Apple, I'd actually use my brain and go, just a second, we're not going to get all their games in the future because why would Microsoft Windows port them over to the competitor? It's like, come on, use your brains.
Well, I mean, Microsoft is also aligned against Apple alongside Epic, in the other lawsuit. Basically,
yeah.
They're trying to get, the regulators to actually enforce Apple and Google to, allow game developers and game companies to sell their games freely on Android and iOS.
I mean,
that's another side.
To a good extent, Google already does allow that, but yeah, with Apple, you're just closed.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing is, it's just all massive multi-billion, trillion-dollar companies fighting each other, and the people who eventually lose is us, particularly me. I always lose.
Why you?
Because I don't know how, but they'll do something to piss me off.
They always do. They can do nothing and they will still piss you off.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay. Well, I guess we can move on to the next topic, which is actually, lots of interesting information popped up thanks to these statements that the companies are putting out because of this whole shebang, this whole thing. And one interesting tidbit is that basically Sony said in one of their statements to the CMA, they went like, well, if Microsoft basically removes Call of Duty before the start of the next generation, which is in, basically the wording implies it's going to be after 2027. So the speculation, running on the web is that PlayStation 6 could appear in 2028, according to this kind of statement.
Sure. I mean, I think I'm a few years out, but I'm sure I was. No, I think probably 1 year out. I'm sure I was saying we'd get another console generation around 27. 1 year out.
That makes. Yeah, it's the same length of the PlayStation 4 generation. I think.
I'm gonna say I was predicting another console generation on here on the podcast. I predicted it around 2027, and 1 year out, so close. I knew
Oh, the
it
interest.
was coming.
Well, it says until 2027, so it could be 2027 included.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, true. But if they made it to 2028, if they launched it in 2028, it would be basically the biggest difference between generations ever, because
Yeah, an extra year, yeah.
between PlayStation and PlayStation 2 there were 6 years, and then it moved to 7 years with PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4, and now it's it could be the first time a generation is 8 years long. So
Well, to be fair, the current generation hasn't even started yet.
I say it doesn't.
We're still getting
surprise me.
cross-gen games.
The reality is that technology, due to the way everything's going, technology is slowing down. We're finally hitting that sort of curve where everything's progressed so quickly in the past, and we've managed to. We're hitting that bit of a wall where until we get really fancy, I don't know, really fancy technology, but quantum computing or God knows wherever else, consoles aren't going to be able to advance that. Games and consoles aren't going to be able to advance that much quicker. It genuinely wouldn't surprise me if we get another console generation after the PS6. Let's say we get a PS7. You're probably not looking until a good 10 years between the 6 and 7 unless some major breakthrough happens. Because everything's slowing down so much.
Yeah, it's what people call diminishing returns, right?
No, yeah.
So we are basically getting closer and closer to nearly perfect 3D graphics, and yeah, it's true what you said, but I think also Francesco makes a good point, because the beginning of this generation was kind of hampered by the pandemic, and also by the shortage issues, that both PlayStation and Xbox have had to deal with. So now it's just finally letting up, but there are, consoles are still hard to find, and I think that may be a factor as well in the kind of prolonged generation that we may be looking at. But it's I think it's a combination of the two things. Yeah, of course, the technological advancements are getting a bit smaller. Yeah, and so we need more time. People need more time to come up with advancements. Even the manufacturing processes. We are now shrinking, always getting to just a handful of nanometers now. So it's not like it can get a lot smaller than that, when it comes to chipset making. So unless, like you said, unless there is some big breakthrough, like, I don't know, maybe quantum computing or something of the sort, that could be a big breakthrough in general for computing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for such a long time, but it's just called Moore's Law, where essentially, power, your processing power, particularly what Moore's Law accounts for, it doubles every 2 years. But the reality is that hasn't been the case for probably a good, I don't know, probably a good decade now, maybe.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Nvidia and AMD have both said as much, and I think Intel as well. That Moore's Law is dead. So
we're getting to the stage now where it's going to be a case of, and that's the same for anything, so graphical and everything. Moore's Law is gone, and now we are on to Ray's Law, which is just buy things when you fucking need them. Don't rush to buy the new shit, because you end up you end up with graphics cards that are bigger than your fucking monitor.
Especially at those prices. Speaking about Nvidia, those prices are crazy.
Well,
I think-
I don't do Nvidia anyway, as we all know. Though
Yeah.
granted, my laptop's got an Nvidia graphics card in it, but I also never use
Oh.
the laptop.
Ah.
But
I bought a £2,000+ laptop before Gamescom, thinking, well, I'll use it for gaming and for to write my stuff. I wrote a few stuff on it, and it's been turned on 3 times. That's such a waste of money.
Mm.
But anyway, I think the good question is that are we going to see another generation
Yes.
after PS6?
Oh, after PS6. Well, I've constantly predicted we will get at least one more generation. I've always said that. We will get one more generation minimum, potentially 2, before we move to proper cloud. I'm going to say we will get another generation after the PS6. But then after that, it's all up in the air. It'll be down to how companies have rolled out infrastructure, and also if we have met the water death of the planet by then.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We're talking about 20 years from now, pretty
Yeah.
much.
We'll all have gills and be like mer people by then.
Yeah, and we'll be old. I'll be old in 20 years. I'll be old.
I've got a little
We'll all
kitty
be
to look
old.
after.
Yeah, we'll be old.
I'm already
But
old.
You're old
mind,
inside. You're old inside.
I have the kidneys of a 800-year-old.
That's because you drink whiskey instead of water.
No,
That's why.
that's why I've got a liver of a 500-year-old. I don't know what's done my kidneys in.
Mm.
The liver of a 500-year-old, kidneys of an 800-year-old, the heart that does not exist.
In a related PlayStation topic, actually, there's some big news that might make you happy, Chris. So basically, Mr. Kazunori Yamauchi is considering Gran Turismo for PC. Does that
With more
make you happy?
microtransactions. With more
Yeah,
microtransactions.
it's not making me happy. I just don't really give a shit.
Why? I mean, you like PC, you like Gran Turismo?
Yes, but I don't like the latest Gran Turismo.
Sorry.
Well, to be fair, I haven't played it since a tiny bit after I reviewed it, because one, it's in fact I gave it too high of a score. The racing is great, but the way it progresses is dog shit. The microtransactions are dog shit. The something else is dog shit, and I'm fairly sure there's
Something
another few thing else that's a dog shit. The racing was good. It looked great, yes, but everything around it, the progression, it was so dull. I almost killed myself just to make things interesting.
They did add recently the ability to sell cars, so now you can sell back cars and make some credits.
Oh, I can sell a car that took me 5 days to fucking gain, because every single time you do a race, it takes you back to the fucking cafe. Did you know that this car, back in 1805, didn't exist? And then 10 years later, it still didn't exist. But eventually, when they invented tyres, it still didn't exist because they needed to invent the combustion engine. Gran Turismo!
Okay.
You know that you made me interested in the game now, if this is what it really does.
What?
Well, no, not really, but no, I'm interested in the little voice that tells you useless stuff.
The voice isn't that interesting. It's more boring. It would have been better if I was the voice actor, because I would have at least made it interesting. And pretty much I would have gone, right, you silly cunt, you're back at this cafe. I know you don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. But the developers, they've had a few too many lobotomies.
Well, this is the same guy that gave it originally a 9 out of 10 score.
I do not think I gave it that. I do not
it,
think I gave it that.
it was higher than 8. Then you updated
Was
it
it?
to yeah.
Oh, I'm actually really angry at myself now.
Well, probably I seem to remember the microtransactions weren't live.
Well, they
when the
weren't
embargo
at the
lifted.
time, yeah.
Yeah, that's why he lowered it to 8. That's why,
Oh
but it was
no,
higher.
you're
It was
right.
higher.
Oh no!
Oh no. I mean, well, no, to be fair, outstanding visuals, yeah, great. Every car unique, yes, true. Weather conditions, track wear, everything, yeah, top. They do have a really good variety of modes over a good number of tracks, yeah. General level of time of detail on the history and culture of cars. Yeah, if you're interested in that, and in between things, I was. But then, yeah, always online aspects, hated. Yeah, glacially slow campaign, doesn't value people's time. Yeah, downright terrible soundtrack, still true. It didn't have. And then, yeah, I added the microtransactions to counteract the forced grind. I did give it too high, and maybe, just maybe, looking back on it now, probably because I haven't played it in ages, I just think, oh, the
You
car
were
history thing.
excited.
Yeah, I don't know. No, well, no, it's
Oh.
still yeah. The gameplay itself's good. It's just glacially slow and
Yeah.
very shitly designed.
Well, anyway, I think back to the point. I think it's about time it
Yeah,
gets on PC.
we need
honestly.
to wrap up anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's about time it gets on PC, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Since it's a big part of it is a multiplayer, so you can just get a larger fan base. And I think there's a lot of sim racing games
That
on
was
PC.
super
It's true, but I think that there's going to be quite a lot of people that are interested in playing GT on PC, if it's done well, of course, the port.
Yeah. And
So.
it's Polyphony Digital, so they'll probably add about 500 extra, I don't know, cafe scenes.
Yeah.
At least people will be able to mod them out on
Very
PC.
true. Very true.
So it's a win-win.
So yeah. Well, anyway, let's move rapidly on. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I am playing. I'm going to assume I can say what I'm playing, but I can't talk about it. So I am playing Marvel's Midnight Suns. Suns. Is it Sun or Suns? Suns.
Suns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm playing Marvel's Midnight Suns. That is all I will say.
Well, actually, I think previews were written a few days ago, so you can talk
previews.
about it.
I can talk about.
Yeah.
I just can't give it an actual score then. Okay,
Yeah.
it's good. It's a bit broken. Bad memory leak, which has caused it to crash quite a few times. No game should be hitting nearly 12 gigabytes of RAM. Not normal. Not normal. Bad game. How am I meant to run mountains of pornography in the background while you're taking up all my RAM? But anyway. But in reality, no, it's good. It's enjoyable. It's different to what I was expecting, mainly because I didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was Firaxis, so I'm like, it's going to be, I was just thinking either Civilization or XCOM. Well, it's different. Probably closer to XCOM than, but not too far off at XCOM, but, well, actually it is. I'm just going to stop talking now. It's Marvel's Midnight Suns. It's a good mixture of different things, and
there are some
Blade.
card elements, right? I think.
Yes. It is. It's like XCOM with cards and with the hub that you can explore and some exploration stuff. And I mean, there's a bit of busy work in it. There is a bit of busy work, but at the same time, when
Yeah.
you do the busy work, the game doesn't let you feel like you've achieved, essentially the game scales with your characters, which I think it slightly annoys me. I want to be higher level. I want to be able, I've done a lot of side missions. I want to be super powered Blade Man.
Oh.
I-
Well, like you said, I think someone will make a mod for that, at least on PC, probably.
Yeah, quite possibly. But to be fair, it doesn't bother me. It's enjoyable, and when you get into the tactics the tactics you can have on offer, especially if you use the characters well, and once you've got certain skills for the characters, getting everything ready, it's an enjoyable game. There's still a lot for me to do. Clearly there's a hell of a lot for me to do, and I've played it God knows how many hours.
And there's a lot of dialogues as well, right?
There's what?
A lot of dialogues. I mean,
Oh yeah,
compared to
There's a lot of
XCOM.
there's a lot of dialogue, and for better and for worse, it feels like a Marvel thing, as in like, I don't mind the Marvel humor, but sometimes it's like, oh, it's the Marvel humor.
It's a bit on the nose, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it sometimes. I found myself laughing once or twice. It's just like it's like I hear something and I just burst out laughing, quick chuckle sort of thing. And then, I mean, some things are repeated. Like, for example, there's a forge, and I've forgot what Tony Stark says. It's like, "Welcome to Tony's Demon Forge. How can I help you?" Or something silly like that. But yeah, it's quite enjoyable. It's enjoyable. It's a genuinely enjoyable game. Is it amazing? Nah, I can't really say because I'm not allowed to give it a score yet.
Okay, so you will
But
give
it's
us
enjoyable. But yeah, I can't say much more than that. It's enjoyable. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Francesco? Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, I can talk about it. I'm playing Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. That's
You're playing Crisis 4?
Crisis Core. Crisis Core. And the remake, remaster, even Square Enix isn't sure about what it is. And
It's more than a remaster or less than a remake, I'd say.
This actually makes sense because when you play that, you can tell. I mean, the visuals have been almost completely redone, and there are times when it looks really good, and there are times when it looks, it's like there are skyboxes, low resolution skyboxes sometimes that you can tell. Yeah, like we were talking with Alessio, I think they held back a bit because of the Switch version. Because
there are lots of. I mean, for Final Fantasy remake, I'm guessing it runs on the same engine, on Unreal Engine, right? So
I don't know.
I think so, but anyway, for Final Fantasy VII remake, there are many texture mods on PC, right? So I guess that's something they can always tweak modders, at least on PC.
Yeah, it's uneven. They put way more care into the main story stuff. Because I'm looking at the screenshots now and I'm thinking it looks good, but I didn't notice it when I was playing it. So yeah, it's a weird one. It still plays a bit like a portable game, so it feels a little small, at least compared to Final Fantasy VII Remake. So someone who never played Crisis Core is going to feel a little. He's going to feel that the game is a little weird in this sense. But
well, I think you would feel weird if you played Crisis 4.
What's this Crisis 4 you're talking about? And the one thing I can say, because I can't talk about it too much, the one thing I can say is that finally it's a fun game to play. Because the original had a terrible combat system. It was so bad. Really, that you got at the end of the game, you were just getting to the end just because of the story. Because it was becoming very frustrating.
Becomes a chore.
It was like a strange mix between Kingdom Hearts and turn-based stuff, it really didn't work. And then there was that slot machine system that was it was interrupting the flow of battle too much. Now they reworked that. It doesn't interrupt battle anymore unless you want it to, because you can now use limit breaks when you want. Just press a button, and then the combat feels very, very fun now. It's still not Final Fantasy VII Remake level. It's still a bit straightforward, but you have a lot of options. You can play in a few different ways, and it's fun. It makes sense because there are a lot of optional missions that are pretty much all of them are combat focused. Now you have a good incentive to play through all of them. There are a lot of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fine. Then so far, because I can only talk about early games, so far the story is identical. They even didn't touch the writing, so it's new voice actors using the lines of the original game. And that's not really a good thing. At least in the beginning, it's not really a good thing because they have some weirdly phrased stuff, and it's a PSP. It's still a PSP game in that sense.
No, I think one of the things that people were discussing just from the trailers is that the visuals themselves, like the character models and textures, are higher quality than the original. Lot of much improved compared to the original, but the animations are basically the same. So
yeah, they're the same. Yeah, they're stiff as hell. Yeah.
Oh, good.
That's a very, very weird thing. There's kind of a dissonance. Between
they have redone the combat animations. Those are redone.
Yeah,
but not the one in the field. Yeah, it's like I said, it's a weird one. It feels like they had a set budget and they decided to focus more on certain things rather than others.
Well, that's if they did have a set budget and everything, that would make sense where you focus on what could.
Yeah. That's they couldn't go all in like they did with the Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
This is why it's a remaster remake, because some things are identical. Like I said, the writing has been left. The story has been left the same so far. I don't know if they will try to tie it with the Final Fantasy VII Remake story. We don't know, because I think if I don't know, but yeah, probably at the ending. If there is anything weird, it will be in the ending. But I haven't reached it yet, and even if I did, I couldn't talk about it.
Okay.
So,
you cock tease.
The thing is, Square Enix has been pushing out like 10 games this year, so it's understandable they didn't.
They've had quite a few third-party ones, though, haven't they, as well? But
yeah, and they're still not done. I mean, just in December they're releasing 3 things. I think at least 3 things. Yeah, they have a Romancing Saga remake.
Okay.
Remaster, remake, I don't know what they call them. There's the Front Mission. Actually, that one is coming this month. The Front Mission First remake.
Okay.
That's coming on Switch, and then they have Crisis Core Reunion.
And
I don't know if I forgot anything else.
And then they have Forspoken, which is in January, so it's very close.
They have at least one game a month from. I don't know for how long.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, for me, I've been playing some Dark Tide, and well, technically it's still in pre-order beta, although the progression actually carries over to the full game, so it's more like an early access sort of thing. And to tell you the truth, the first few days were quite frustrating because the game didn't even work most of the time. There were lots of matchmaking errors and even crashes for the first couple of days.
I think the question is, if you read my preview, how does it compare to? Because I said it was enjoyable from what I'd played.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is an evolved version of Vermintide, basically. So, it's still that great kind of melee combat, but this time the ranged combat is a lot deeper. There is suppression and lots of mechanics. And, but overall, it is, like I said, basically an improved version of Vermintide. The graphics are a lot better. I'm playing with full ray tracing and DLSS 3 and everything.
Yeah.
And no, the good thing is that, like I said, the first few days were kind of terrible, but they have been rather quick at fixing stuff. They already pushed a couple of patches, and actually they've also been, they've also been adding a few things. They, for example, they've added crafting. So basically now, when you go into the levels, you can gather some resources, and I mean, it's not like you mine them; you just find them. So in boxes and stuff, and then you can basically improve your weapons and whatever. There's lots of different weapons. Of course, you have to level up to unlock them, and it's quite hard actually as a game, because if you don't find the proper group, you can easily wipe. And of course, even if you don't complete the mission, you still get some rewards, but not the full rewards, of course. And I guess one of the drawbacks so far is that there aren't many maps, honestly, at launch. I think there's only 4 or 5. There are some, of course, there are some random modifiers. So sometimes there are some differences in the missions that, are supposed to keep it fresh. But on the other hand, I'd say it's a good game, honestly. And of course, there is a lot of room to improve. And I guess so far Fat Shark has been rather quick with updates, and hopefully they can continue that way. And it can be, it's a lot of fun, and with friends. One drawback is that for now at launch, there is no crossplay between Game Pass, because the game will be on Game Pass and Steam. But they said they are working on that, so that hopefully comes soon, and
I'm sure
that's great.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, when's it launch?
Well, like I said, it's technically not launched yet. It will launch on November 30.
You'll be able to tell us if all that's working next week then.
Yeah, the beta launched, I think, last week. So
Awesome. Okay. Well, I would say that's everything from me, and my family members just arrived, so I do have to rush. And we've been a while anyway. In fact, looking at that, 58 minutes now, so I think we've done well. We've made up for Francesco in his escort adventures, and you and your bum shoulder. But, so
is there Leela still around?
No, she's just run off to go say hello to my aunt.
I guess we should make it a habit to have Leila say hi to the viewers.
She's not a talkative cat. No. Usually when I walk in from work, she goes, and I go, all right. But so we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.